college football podcast for everyone and everyone else. I'm your host, John Buhler, lead writer, fansided.com. I'm joined today by a man who I can only describe as the John Rothstein of Los Alamos. He has internet. There's hoops on. This is March. This is March. This is March. Cody Williams, content director, fansided.com. Welcome back to the program, Red.
Yeah, dude, it's nice to be back in civilization. New Mexico internet is just a thing and it happens. And I apologize. We got a solid like 18 minutes recorded on Monday and then everything just went to hell. So, that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, we did our bracket, and I don't know if you would have agreed with what I ended up doing. Texas, I was so tired of putting Texas and Xavier like with the slash through there. Like they got to lose at some point.
Oh
So,
yeah, 100%. You can't deal with that for too long.
for the record, in case you didn't pay attention to anybody else, our the fan not the fall start March Madness college football bracket, whatever I'm calling it, it's early. I'm washed up. Our final four are Florida, Iowa State, Oregon, and Clemson, which I
Yeah.
think we're pretty much we're fine with that.
Yeah, that totally works for me. And I believe you had Clemson winning it all, which makes perfect sense. Kind of
Yeah,
just another feather in the cap of our unfortunate Clemson love that we're starting this season.
and that's what I said. Like, if they win the tournament, I look great, and if they don't, well, they lost, and I still feel pretty good. Shout out to Brad Brownell getting a raise or not going to Indiana because Darian DeVries, what? Whoa.
Yeah, it's a shame we're not a college basketball show because I feel like we just spend an hour talking about Darian DeVries right now.
Ren Baker is having a time right now. We'll say.
100%.
But obviously, today's Thursday, March 20th. We're this is when the tournament games start. You guys play today? Because we play. We play. Georgia plays Gonzaga
We,
at like 4:45.
we play Friday on Carolina plays Friday at I think like 6 Eastern, something like that. I think they're in like the start of the early evening games.
And y'all are playing Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, baby.
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, that's a football school, so I'm feeling pretty good.
That's true. Isn't that where Chris Beard is now?
Oh, 100%, yeah. So
Chris.
karmically, one of the two head coaches in that game is a very good human being. Not sure he's a good basketball coach. The other one is a very good basketball coach that I'm not sure is a very good human being. So,
Well, my game we got a Mike and a Mark. One's got been to a tournament more than a few times. The other one's white.
the other one's white.
And on that note, we obviously fall started here. This is obviously a college football podcast. Our first and 15 today is going to be another slice of pumpkin pie. Cody put forth a most delicious NFL mock draft after the first wave of free agency. Did this before when I was with the dogs, Maya barking at everything. But
Yeah.
it's a good time to have a good time, and let's talk about some of the stuff he's got in his mock draft here. So, kind of going by the seat of my pants. Your top five, you got Cam Ward going to from Miami to Tennessee. I don't know if he's super excited about that, but he just needs to shut up and go play for the Titans.
Yep.
Big thing here, you got Abdul Carter from Penn State going to the Browns at two, even though they don't have a quarterback. Might want mine, may not happen. The New York Giants, they get the antithesis of Daniel Jones and Shedeur Sanders at three, so congratulations there.
A competent quarterback. Who could have ever thought about it in New York?
And then we're going to talk about the next three, which are very interesting and grouped together. You have the New England Patriots doing what I would consider to be a Bill Belichick draft, and they're taking Missouri offensive tackle Armand Membu at four.
Hmm.
Mike Vrabel's in charge. You say like this is kind of what he wants to do with being very defensive heavy in free agency. That allows wide receiver cornerback Travis Hunter to go to the Jaguars at five, which we didn't think was possible. And then that allows Mason Graham, who everybody thought was going to go to Jacksonville on the defensive line, he's going to go to the Raiders at six. So yeah, that's I kind of what kind of let's start here. Like, how'd you end up going like let's put Membu here and just throw like a stick in the spoke of the wheel and flip somebody's car like it's Western North Carolina party time.
So I mean, honestly, it's me kind of reading the tea leaves in free agency because we going into free agency, everyone looked at the Patriots. They looked at how bad the offense was last year, and they were like, okay, they're going to be after every wide receiver possible. Well, they didn't really have a lot of interest in a DK Metcalf trade. They didn't really have a lot of interest in Devontae Adams. They didn't really have a lot of interest in Cooper Kupp. Like they weren't really in these markets for wide receivers. Haven't really been in a market for offensive players, frankly. They've surprised us at every turn, and so like. You look at most mock drafts, it's Travis Hunter going to the New England Patriots. That's the way most of it's going. The fact that that's what everyone is expecting to happen makes me expect that that's not going to happen based on how this offseason has played out for the Patriots. And like you look at Mike Vrabel, you look at what they did in Tennessee, everything was predicated upon getting the lines right on both sides of the ball, getting the defense right, and then building the offense around that. Obviously, having Derrick Henry help there, but you do have Drake May, so maybe you can build off of that. But I think like the offensive line is still a absolute problem, and I think you can find a usable wide receiver in the second round more than you can a starting left tackle, which I think Mimbu can be.
I mean, like initially I'd be pushing back on this. Like, this is a guy that like wasn't on the same sort of caliber coming in as like Will Campbell out of LSU or Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas. Did play in the same league as them, but he might be coming off the board first of the bookend tackles here. I'll say this: like, I'm not the highest person on Travis Hunter.
Hmm.
I'm of the belief like he's got to pick a position, and I know you share a differing opinion of that
Yeah.
than me. I just don't think everybody's like saying like the Patriots, the Patriots, the Patriots. I'm like, I don't think that that's the fit for him.
Yeah.
Like, if they're gonna get a wide receiver, they'd much rather probably get someone like a Emeka Egbuka
Hmm.
or Luther Burden III, someone who's like a true wide receiver or a cornerback. But then you got a team like the Jaguars who are just like slobbering all over themselves. Oh my God, we're gonna get Travis Hunter, we're gonna get the next Reggie Bush or whatever. And Reggie Bush had a fine career, but he was kind of positionless. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I think Travis Hunter's gonna be in the NFL.
I mean, if there's a team that would absolutely play Travis Hunter two ways, it's the Jaguars. Come on, you know that's the case. Like they would absolutely let him play two ways.
Yeah, they're like if you can play at altitude, you can play in the Florida heat, man.
That's right. I mean, he's a Florida guy too, so like it is a somewhat of a homecoming, like a different area of Florida, but like he's a Florida guy, so like I do think there is some sense to Travis Hunter in Jacksonville, and like if he's on the board, I can't see Jacksonville passing up on him. Like I truly believe that 5 is the floor for Travis Hunter.
I don't know if he's from Florida. I think he's from Collins Hill. He grew up in
Really?
Atlanta. Yeah, he went to Taylor Heineke's high school.
Oh, that's my bad. I
But he
thought
he
I
was committed he was committed to Florida State for a long time. And you know what?
that's probably what's in my head is the Florida State of it all.
He just the love for Deion Sanders. So that's kind of
Oh, he was born in
my
West Palm Beach. I'm right. There we
that's
go.
fine. He's a Florida man. He was born there. It's in his blood,
That's
dude.
right. You can't kick that. Come on.
No. You're Virginia's for lovers, and that's why you're a lover because you were born in Lynchburg.
That's what
And
I'm saying, man.
also Caillou, the basketball player for the Flames,
That's right.
did not make my all-name team because we don't need a precocious, bald French Canadian brat ruining everything.
We do not. Shouts to the anime heads out there, though.
Yes, it's good to be them sometimes, I guess. And moving on, looking at the rest of the top 10, we got Will Campbell, the left tackle, going from LSU to the New York Jets. The Carolina Panthers taking Jalen Walker out of Georgia. Homecoming for him. He's from Salisbury, North Carolina, so that's a great fit. Got Penn State tight end Tyler Warren going to the Saints at 9. And then you got Ashton Jeanty going to the Bears at 10 out of Boise State. We'll talk about Ashton Jeanty here in just a little second. I don't really have much beef with any of these on here. I do feel that like that's about as early as Tyler Ward can come off the board, but honestly, the Saints can kiss my ass and they can do whatever they want. Cam Ward wants to go play for him, so he's already dead to me.
I mean, like, here's the thing with the Saints is like, I was looking at the board and I was like, I mean, what couldn't they use? Like, you could use a quarterback, you could use a like Alvin Kamara is not a spring chicken. You could use a wide receiver, you could use an offensive lineman. You like this roster sucks. The Saints are terrible right now, and so. I look at this and I see the situation developing. You have Kellen Moore. He probably wants the safety valve for Derek Carr while he has to ride it out with Derek Carr. So get him Tyler Warren and just see how it works. Because when you look back at when Derek Carr was at his best, Darren Waller years in Vegas. So get him a tight end that he can really target like that.
Yeah, he's had success with what Foster Moreau back in the day,
Mhm.
Jared Cook. Uh,
Yeah.
You mentioned that you wish Jimmy Graham coming in, he's a mongoloid.
That's right.
I think honestly, getting Jalen Walker to the Panthers is great for Carolina and awful for me. And
Yeah,
it's just false
that
start.
I'm sorry to do that to you, but him being a Carolina guy, and I mentioned it in the mock draft, but like thinking back to someone like Shaq Thompson, who was kind of like that positionless defender in the linebacker edge rusher area coming out of college, like Jalen Walker really fits that mold. I think he might be a little bit higher end of a player like that, but Carolina obviously knows how to have success in that capacity.
I think that's fair. And then I'll talk a little bit about Ashton Jeanty at 10 going to the Bears. I did not really think that that was really the place for him to go. We'll probably discuss that here shortly. But again, I'm not the biggest fan of Ben Johnson going to this team. I think he's kind of going in there thinking he can do no wrong,
Yeah.
prancing around on his white horse like Peyton Manning, and then he ends up getting Stonewall Jackson there. Um, yeah, just whatever. It's springtime.
Yeah,
The Bosco's house definitely looks like the ridge line looks like something you would see out of the Atlanta campaign.
that's right.
But anyway, like Ashton Jeanty feels like he could work for the Bears. They're kind of basically I think they let like Khalil Herbert or somebody else like walk in free agency. Is that right?
Yeah,
Uh,
and DeAndre Swift was bad for them last season. So
right.
like, yeah, like my thought process with the Bears is twofold. One, it's the Lions mentality. Like, not just
Yeah.
because the Lions drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, but like the fact that even before that they signed David Montgomery. They knew that so much was predicated on the run game and the offensive line. Well, they've already addressed the offensive line in free agency and through the trade market. Like you got Jonah Jackson from the Rams, you got Drew Dalman in free agency, you got Joe Tooney from the Chiefs. The tackles weren't awful last year. So like it was the interior that really hurt them. You fixed that seemingly. At least you believe that you fixed that. So the next step to me would obviously be a running back. You don't need a wide receiver. You could probably up the defense a little bit, but that defense is not bad. So like I do think that Genty and like you said, like I'm a little bit higher on the Ben Johnson hire than you are, but at the same time, like it does feel like a very Ben Johnson-y thing to be like, okay, we already fixed this. Let's go get, a guy that's going to help me out.
Totally. And it'd be so funny if cousin Caleb Williams is like, you know what? I'm gonna be Dan Marino here. I'm gonna refuse to hand the ball off. Just spite Ashton Jeanty.
That'd be brutal because I want to see Ashton Jeanty play football.
I do. I just don't want to see him play for the Bears
No,
because I'm,
fair,
I'm not,
fair.
not really for that. So let's go finish the first half of the first round with 11 through 16. You got Jahdae Barron, the cornerback out of Texas, going to the 49ers. Your Dallas Cowboys at 12 are taking Tetairoa McMillan out of Arizona to get your wide receiver because you don't want a running back there.
I do not.
Uh, Miami Dolphins are taking another Georgia guy and Malachi Starks in the defensive backfield. Think I could see Mike McDaniel winking like Squints Palidorus there down there on the. Then you got another Michigan guy coming off the board with Colston Loveland, Indianapolis Colts tight end, second guy off the board. You got my Falcons taking Mike Green out of Marshall. I go back and forth on that one, and then the Arizona Cardinals taking the guy I really want, Will Johnson out of Michigan. So let's okay, we've talked about Ted McMillan to your team. I think we've kind of gotten to the point there. Let's talk about Loveland a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about like Loveland, Green, and then Johnson a little bit for you.
Yeah, so Loveland to me, kind of the same thing with Derek Carr and the Saints, but even more so because they're trying to figure out whether it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones at the quarterback room. But looking at the Colts offense, and especially because they addressed the defense pretty well so far in free agency. So, like, I do think that the defense is going to be better. You also bring in Lou Anarumo, who I think is going to help that defense. But I look at this court, like, they need to figure out quarterback. Who is their quarterback of the future? Is it Anthony Richardson or not, specifically? And when I look at that, one thing I noticed about the Colts offense, there's not an easy button on that Colts offense outside of Jonathan Taylor. Like you have AD Mitchell, who I like as a player, but he's a downfield threat. You have Michael Pittman Jr., who's kind of an intermediate threat. You have Alec Pierce, who is definitely just a deep threat. That's the only thing he's good at. And so you have these guys, and it's all downfield. And I understand that suits Anthony Richardson's skill set, but that's not where he needs to develop. And there's no room for him to develop underneath the middle of the field. Colston Loveland is a player that could absolutely do that. And even if it's not Anthony Richardson, and Anthony Richardson is just not good, which is kind of the camp I fall into, he could at least help Daniel Jones out too and be that easy button. So, like, I do think it's something that makes sense for what the Colts are trying to figure out right now.
Well, you're also that point where you're like, okay, the Colts are like, dang, you took Malachi Starks
Yeah.
before us. I was talking about this in the Blog and Dirty podcast yesterday. I'm like, some people out there are saying, are there five worse general managers out there than Terry Fontenot? I want to believe there are. I kind of ran out of names. So Chris Ballard, I think, is the worst general manager. Joe Shane's really bad with the Giants.
Jerry Jones, I'll throw his
Yeah,
hat in the ring.
Jerry Jones, that's three. But like a lot of these guys are relatively new.
Yeah, there's a lot of GM turnover, so it's hard to like really go too hard at someone.
Like I'm trying to think who else is just not. Oh, I still think Ryan Poles sucks. So
Oh yeah, I do too. And to get you to five, I'm not sure Nick Casario is particularly good at his job, so
no.
I'd throw him in the ring as well.
And then Mickey Loomis is living on borrowed time. That's
Yeah,
another one. We got six. That's
yeah,
that's
there we go.
that's great. I also have a feeling Darren Bougie may not be good. Bougie.
We'll see what happens.
But what the best general managers in the NFL? That's like Howie Roseman,
Howie,
Brad Holmes.
I think I'm higher on him than you, but I think Quessie's a really good general manager.
He impressed me. I against yeah, sure. I don't know if John Lynch is a good general manager.
I'm not quite sure either. We'll see what the Brock Purdy deal looks like before I grade that.
Jason Light's pretty good.
Yeah,
Adam Peters seems like he's got promise as well. John Schneider's had a job for a really long time, so congratulations to that.
I I weirdly one of my hot takes is I think Andrew Barry is actually a good general manager. He just made one mistake that screwed everything up with Deshaun Watson, but like every other move he's made, I haven't had a huge problem with.
I mean, you and I both know that was a Jimmy Haslam move anyway.
True, 100%. Like if you want this pilot money, this is what you're gonna do.
It's a shotgun wedding. And I'll go on to like one of my favorite general managers who took Will Johnson 16, Monty Austin for it. So
Yeah,
I really want Will Johnson with the Falcons because like I don't trust our ability to draft an edge rusher. I know that Trey Hendrickson's kind of largely off the table now
yeah.
because Mike Brown woke up from his nap. But we're gonna get Mike Green, who maybe like the I like him more than James Pierce Jr., who scares the hell out of me because I think he's the next Vic Beasley. Mike
Mhm.
Green played really well at Marshall for Charles Huff, but that program kind of went in a weird direction. He left for Southern Miss, and
Just wild stuff.
but Mike Green's been a guy that's been targeted to both our teams, the Falcons, and the Cowboys. So I think you probably know more about what he can do than I do.
Yeah, I when I look at the Falcons and like when I don't think he like so first off on the James Pierce Jr. point, I just got to get this out of my head because it's one of those things just sitting there. He's not in the first round of this mock draft.
Right.
As the draft process is going on, it seems like there might be some character concerns with James Pierce Jr. That's kind of been rumbling on the internet for a little bit. Haven't seen anyone actually report that, so don't like write that as gospel or anything like that. But the fact that Mel Kiper Jr. and Daniel Jeremiah, neither of them had them in their first rounds. Those are two guys that I trust to know at least a little bit about something. Like that says something to me about James Pierce Jr. In terms of Mike Green, I think that he's just a pass rusher. Like I don't think he's going to help the Falcons against the run. I don't think he's very good at that. But like he was fine at Marshall, but that was again you're playing in CUSA. That's a little bit of a different league than the NFL. As a pass rusher, though, I think he's just made to come into the NFL and get after the quarterback, which the Falcons need a player like that, man. The Cowboys need a player like that opposite of Michael Parsons. But like, I just look at Mike Green and I look at what he did at the Senior Bowl, not just the clip of him absolutely bowing over Josh Connerly Jr., but like his entire day of practice before he said, "Yeah, I'm good because I've dominated this for a day and I don't need to do anything else here." Like to me, that's a guy I want on my team who's like, I did my work. Like you don't have to worry about me being a small school guy. I am that dude.
Mike Green, Mike Jones,
Mike Jones,
Falcon.
who? Who?
Moving on to the second half of the first round, Cincinnati Bengals take Donovan Ezaruka out of Boston College. This guy's really gone up the board. I think last time he did this, he was coming off in like the late 20s, very early 30s. He's a quick riser, kind of Trey Hendrickson insurance, if you will. You've got the Seahawks taking Nick Imawari out of South Carolina, safety. South Carolina is producing some really high-end defensive backs.
Mhm.
Got the Buccaneers taking Jihad Campbell. I think that's a very Todd Bowles like play it safe sort of pick there. Then you got the Denver Broncos taking your boy Amarian Hampton there at 20. And I'm going to throw the Steelers and Chargers in here too. Let's go with Jackson Dart to the Steelers out of Ole Miss at 21. Then Matthew Golden coming out of Texas, going to the Chargers to basically be the better version of the Quentin Johnson you have at home.
Yeah, be functional Quentin Johnston. That's what we're looking for there.
So I want to talk about with these. I think Omarion Hampton to the Broncos is. I mean, against your better judgment, you have to become a fan of this team, and it's gonna destroy you.
No, see, it's going to work out for me because any success that the Broncos have here on out, I'm going to attribute to Marion Hampton and not Bo Nix. So really, it works out for me perfectly.
I'm I'm not ruling out the chance they might win the AFC West next year.
It's not out of the pot. I mean, like, I, I'm still trepidatious when it comes to Bo Nix. But Sean Payton's a damn good coach, and this is a damn good roster. So, like, I do think that there is a world where they make some noise. I don't know if they win the West, but I do think that they're probably a playoff team in 2025.
Yeah, Raiders got to rework this thing. I think the Chiefs pull back a little bit. Like they're not going to be
Yeah.
like the one seed. There's not going to be an Arrowhead Invitational next year.
Right.
I don't know who's going to win that league. I don't really care.
Yeah.
Whatever. NFC, Team NFC.
That's right. That's right.
Jackson Dart to the Steelers. I think we're both of the consensus. Like, if he's there, you owe it to yourself to at least try. Like, you think
Mhm.
he could be like Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna be fun. I think I don't know, he started a lot of games in a pro style offense. I don't know if he fits Pittsburgh at all. I mean, he's a Mormon guy who played in the SEC, so I guess he fits anywhere.
So I'm looking at it. One thing I didn't mention in the mock draft, but the more I think about it, the more I think it makes sense. Who's the quarterback that Arthur Smith had the most success with in his career?
Ryan Tannehill.
And Jackson Dart is not on Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Like I can see that absolutely working. You get a strong running back. They've invested in the offensive line. We'll see it work if it works out with guys like Broderick Jones and stuff. I still believe in Broderick Jones. He's a beast, but like we'll see if it works out at the NFL level. But like I look at what Arthur Smith did with Ryan Tannehill. Jackson Dart's not going to be thrown into the fire. That's always my worry with an Ole Miss quarterback is that they're going to get thrown into the fire because transitioning from Lane Kiffin's system to an NFL system is just a very different thing. But I think Jackson Dart's better equipped than a lot of Ole Miss quarterbacks previously to do that. Coming from USC to Ole Miss, like he's not just been in Lane Kiffin's system this entire time, but also Lane Kiffin asks him to do a lot more than he did the Matt Corrals and the Chad Kellys of the world. Not Chad Kelly. Who's the guy that was before them? Who's the guy that was before?
Jordan Ta'amu.
Yes, thank you. God Almighty, I could not remember his name for the life of me. But like Lane Kiffin, like I think that he trusts Jackson Dart because he knows that this is an NFL caliber talent, and like you see it on the tape, he has all the throws, and Pittsburgh is a soft landing spot because I'm of the belief that Pittsburgh is going to be the one that lands Aaron Rodgers. I think that's where that's going to end up. When, who the hell knows? But I do think that's where we end up. And so Jackson Dart's not going to have to go in and save the Pittsburgh Steelers immediately. He can pick up things and learn the system for a year.
I'm not ruling out the possibility. This is one of two things that I think are going to happen with the Steelers. I think they're going to get Aaron Rodgers, and I think the chances of them drafting a quarterback at 21 are very high. It
Yeah.
could be Jackson Dart. It could honestly be Jalen Milroe, who again I think plays like Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
They went to his pro. They had what, Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, and quarterbacks coach Tom Arth had like dinner with him in Tuscaloosa. He ran a 4.37, so they're going to make him Cordell Stewart against his better judgment.
Yeah, I'm still worried about Jalen Milroe throwing the football, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he's also son of a military man. Come on, boys, let's go, boys.
Yeah, I mean Mike Tomlin loves that dude. I can guarantee that.
Could you imagine if Tomlin like is like let go and Rogers can like destroys this and they hire Gus Malzahn to be their head coach?
The entire show would just be renamed "We're Living in a Simulation."
What river do you think Mark Powell would dive into? Would he go into the Mon, the Allegheny, or the Ohio?
I think he'd take a dip in the Allegheny before transitioning to the Ohio.
Not about the Mon, I guess. If I should fall from grace with God.
That's right.
And I don't know. I've got anything else with the yeah. That's kind of got for the top 22. Let's go to, I don't know what, 23 through 28. We got Mecca Buka going to the Packers at 23. Kenneth Grant going to the Vikings at 24. That's a steal. Josh Simmons going to the Texans at 25. I don't know what Nick Casario is doing. Maxwell Hairston, cornerback out of Kentucky, a recent riser, a guy that's been on the Falcons board a little bit, going to the Rams 26. Tyler Booker going to Alabama. I remember he had that quote about Nick Saban, and that's all he really did. And then Shemar Stewart falling to the Lions at 28. I think if the Lions get Shemar Stewart, and I think if the Vikings get Kenneth Grant, a lot of teams messed up in front of them.
100%. And like I think like with Kenneth Grant, it's one of those things that you just go through a run of these teams that they don't really need a defensive tackle. Like they just don't need that interior help. That doesn't mean a team won't take him. Like some GMs are just going to value the talent and take him, but he is like he's an interesting player because he's a nose tackle ostensibly, but with more pass rush upside than your typical nose tackle. But nose tackles do not go high in the draft. So like I do think there's a chance he gets pushed down. I also think there's a chance the Vikings are not picking at 24. Like I think that knowing how Kwesi Adofo-Mensah likes to deal, there's a really good chance that he tries to recruit some draft picks and trades down from 24.
There's also a chance he shows up to work with his briefcase like Cosmo Kramer, and it's just crackers.
Oh yeah, crackers and Twizzlers, baby.
He just trades out of it like he's Les Snead because F them picks.
That's right.
And then I guess the last four picks you got Siobhan Ravel. But God, that's an awesome name. Going from East Carolina to the Washington Commanders. You got Walter Nolan going to the Bills out of Ole Miss by way of Texas A&M. Kelvin Banks Jr. falling all the way down to the Chiefs at 31, and then Michael Williams going to the Eagles at 32 because of course he is.
I got to 32 and I saw Michael Williams on the board, and I've never like made a pick quicker in a mock draft. I was just like, of course that's gonna happen because F me, right? Like that's just my Cowboys fandom.
And again, another Georgia player they passed on, and like watch him end up having the better career than Mike Green because
Of
that's just.
course.
I'm just kind of curious for you, like how you like. I know I was surprised to see Williams fall that far, cousin Michael, and then Banks fall that far. What's kind of been the reason for that for both, if you can explain
So
that?
with Kelvin Banks, frankly, I don't understand it. I was trying to do this was me trying to be predictive, not what I would do in this mock draft. And so if I'm drafting Kelvin Banks as a top 15 pick with a bullet, like there's no doubt about it. That doesn't seem to be the consensus. People are souring Kelvin Banks, and I have no clue why. But with the Chiefs, it makes perfect sense
Oh
because
yeah,
one of the reasons that I would assume that he's falling a little bit is he doesn't check the boxes in terms of size and like the arm length measurables that you want for a tackle traditionally. Okay, well the Chiefs also need a guard. Try him out at tackle. If he doesn't work there, you can slot him in and replace Joe Tooney. Like it's a perfect landing spot for him. But I do think that like based on what I've seen, it seems like Kelvin Banks is getting pushed down basically after the top 26. Like in that range is where he's going to go. And I thought that there was talent that kind of fit better for those other teams. So he lands with the Chiefs. And I would not be surprised if he does fall past, like, say, I would say past the 21st pick. And like there is some buzz that maybe Kelvin Banks could go to another team ahead of the Chiefs. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Chiefs trade up to get him.
right. I think that's fair. And then obviously Michael Williams, it's kind of more like he had the injury, and it's just like it's the pure pass rush sort of component. I don't think that's
Yeah.
really, I think that's really it mostly.
Yeah, it's more of like what like we know him and Shemar Stewart are not dissimilar, quite frankly. Like it's one of those things where we know the tools are there and we've seen the flashes of you being like otherworldly. Can we get that out of you for 17 games? Because I don't know the answer to that. These NFL teams don't know the answer to that. But if a team's going to take that bet, it's the Eagles every time.
100%. And they got the tools, they got the power to be your own boss. So let's move on to the next topic. Let's put a dude on a team, bro.
Let's do it.
Let's start with Ashton Jeanty and then let's do Shemar Stewart. So we're each going to pick three different teams. We're going to figure out the right team to put each on. So you go first. You want to put the Bears up there for Ashton Jeanty?
Yeah. We'll go with the mock draft and put the Bears up there for Ashton Jeanty.
I think that's totally fair. And I'm going to add the Raiders, which I think is the
Yeah.
highest he's going to come off the board at 6. So those are pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean I'll throw in the Cowboys. It's not something I want, but it is realistic.
I'm also gonna say let's put the Saints in there too. I feel
Mm.
like they could go in a lot of different directions to help Derek Carr out again. He's had Josh Jacobs, he's had Marshawn Lynch and stuff. I think that's a fit there too. And nine's about when he could potentially come off the board.
Yeah, I like that. Let's go with trying to think. Not the Colts at 14. If the Dolphins did that at 13, that'd be the dumbest thing in the entire world. Falcons,
Yeah,
no. Cardinals?
sure. There you
No, no,
go.
Cardinals.
No,
They just drafted oh God, who was the good dude they drafted last year?
Someone good, dude.
Someone good. I'm gonna go with the Broncos. Let's say he does fall the 20 at the Broncos because I do think the Broncos are looking at a running back.
Yeah, I think the Broncos is about as far as he could go, and I'll throw the 49ers in there as the last team
I like that.
because who knows what John Lynch is doing. I
And who knows what CMC's ankles, feet look like at this point.
think he's gonna be a dad, so congratulations.
Congratulations, buddy.
So we've got the Bears, the Raiders, the Cowboys, the Broncos, the Saints, and the 49ers.
Yeah.
Of those six, who we're gonna cross off?
I think I'm comfortable crossing off the Broncos just because I don't think he goes that far.
Yeah, because you've got every other team in here. You've got teams picking at what, 6, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that I just by the proxy of the draft order, I think that the Broncos got to be crossed off.
I think that's fair. I'm going to cross off the 49ers because I don't necessarily feel that they have as strong of a conviction to go get a running back as much as the other four, or at least, with the Bears, the Raiders, or the Cowboys. So I
Yeah.
figure that like there's some uncertainty. Plus, you're throwing darts at a dartboard blindfolded with John Lynch. Who knows what he's going to do?
Yeah, no one. I don't think John Lynch knows what he's going to do, quite frankly. And speaking of guys who I don't know if they know what they're going to do, Mickey Loomis and the Saints. I'm going to cross the Saints off. Like, I, you can never count out the Saints and what the hell they're going to do. But at the same time, this would be really dumb, in my opinion.
I know they've already got Alvin Kamara too, and
Yeah, like, I don't, why would you do this?
let's not draft a player there that I like. Make me hate him. Like I don't want that. I don't
Yeah,
enjoy
no one
this.
wants that.
Just put evil people on that team. It'd be
That's
great.
right.
That's why Alvin Kamara works there.
Right.
So we've got the Raiders at 6. We've got the Bears at 10. We've got the Cowboys at 12. I This is really tough. I think you could go to any of these teams
Mhm.
pretty easily. I'm going to make you happy. I'm going to cross the Cowboys off at 12,
Thank you. Thank
mostly
you.
because I think that the supposed interest out of the Raiders and now the Bears makes it a little bit less likely he's going to fall 6 and then 3 more spots
Mhm.
to the Cowboys there. That probably means Amari Hampton's going to be playing for your Cowboys. So,
I mean, look, I don't want them to draft a running back. I'm not going to lie to you and say I wouldn't be thrilled to have a Marion Hampton on the
right.
Cowboys.
So we got the Bears and the Raiders.
I know I mocked into the Bears, but I think we go Raiders here
Yeah.
because I think it does make sense. And like, there's a like if mate like it's one of those things. If Mason Graham's on the board, I think you take Mason Graham if you're the Raiders. But there's a lot of worlds where Mason Graham's not on them. And so like if it's Ashton Jeanty or say, I don't know, like Ashton Jeanty or frankly, if it goes the way a lot of mock drafts are going, where you have Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter, Mason Graham. If that's the way the top five plays out in any order, I don't care what the order of that is. Ashton Jeanty's there on the board. I think the Raiders take him. You don't hire Pete Carroll if you don't want to win now. You don't trade for Geno Smith if you don't want to try to win now. Well, you don't have a running back worth a damn on the roster. So get a guy in there like Ashton Jeanty who's going to be able to take some of the pressure off of Geno Smith, going to be able to take some of the pressure off Brock Bowers. And I think that makes a lot of sense for them.
The only guy I could see them taking that's in that situation that's not Ashton Jeanty might be Will Johnson because I think he hit with Devin Witherspoon back in the day at
Yeah.
Illinois, but at 5 for the Seahawks, which was kind of impressive. But like again, they got to get running back. Pete Carroll's uh he's running on fumes right now, and so are the Raiders. I just feel like the fit works. He wants to ground pound there, and it probably serves the Bears. Maybe you trade back and you draft him Mariana Hampton. Everyone's praising Ryan Poles for winning another offseason.
Yeah. Off-season champs always.
Offseason champs. It's so great. God, Chicago loves to crown a savior. That's
The
that's the most frustrating part about living there. It's like this guy's not that great. So, like, what are you talking about?
shouts Pete Crow Armstrong. We love you.
Yeah, I know. If Eminem met J Rock, we've been over this and over this. You can't not be feeling this. So we're gonna move on to Shemar Stewart here, edge rusher out of Texas A&M. So You had him mocked to who'd you have him mocked to again?
The Lions. I had him going
The
to the Detroit
Lions.
Lions. Yeah.
Okay, the Lions. Shemar Stewart. I'm looking over here. I'm gonna add the Falcons here. I feel like that's a guy that's been coming up with a lot of mock drafts for him. Maybe a player I'd be interested in. They're saying like, oh, he's gonna be the next Von Miller or the next Myles Garrett, or he may just be the next guy from Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's the risk you take with a guy like Shemar Stewart. No, but I think the Falcon. I would say the Falcons are about as early as he could go, probably, just because like there's a certain point where like you have to ask the question of, okay, you're obviously talented, but why didn't you produce? And like I think that pushes you out to like the 15 range. So like I have no problem with the Falcons, but I do think that's like probably the high end for them. I'm going to throw out the Lions obviously as my first team, just because I think like as I said in there, you have the Dan Campbell connection, which I think is important. And also, like, if I trust a team more than anyone to get the most out of Shemar Stewart, I'm pretty sure that's probably the Lions based on the infrastructure they have.
Yeah, just for the record, for the folks at home, Dan Campbell went to A&M, so you've
Hmm.
got that going for him. Team I'm gonna put the Bengals. I think that's a great
Hmm.
fit potentially as Trey Hendrickson insurance.
Or
We'll
a
see.
compliment, because like
Yeah,
who the hell else do they have on the edge?
yeah, because Sam Hubbard just retired, so
Yeah.
that's very important. So Bengals, Lions, Falcons. Who you got next?
I'm gonna throw the Buccaneers in there as well because, like, if Todd Bowles decides to not play it safe, I'm very convinced that he's going to draft Jihad Campbell. Like, I've thoroughly convinced myself of that. But if he decides to not play it safe, not play it traditional, I think they could use a player like Shemar Stewart in Tampa.
I think that's fair. I'm gonna add the Commanders. I think that would be just a really good bang for your buck there at like 29. So that's my third team.
And I'm gonna throw in a wild card. Here's the last one, the Packers, because like they were a team I was kind of pushing really hard to, if Myles Garrett gets traded, go after him because you need someone who's going to be a complement to Rashawn Gary on the edge. Like you drafted Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa, and he kind of hasn't developed, and he really struggled with the switch from the 3-4 to the 4-3 base alignment under Jeff Hafley. So I think that you need someone there, and I think the Packers sneakily are a team that are hard to predict when it comes to the draft. You never really know what they're going to do. They always have their own plans. And I mean, to be clear, it's not a bad plan. The Packers are perennially a very good football team for a reason, but like they're also very hard to predict how they're going to handle things.
I know it's you're never predicting what Brian Gutekunst wants to do. Also, trying to tell Lucas Van Ness, there's is there three letters or four letters in Iowa? And his mind's just blown.
Yeah, you can't handle that. Not at
I
all.
don't think you can spell Iowa with like three letters.
IWA, baby. Iowa.
Oh,
Iowa.
there's no O there, but so we've got the Packers, the Commanders, the Falcons, the Lions, the Bengals, and who's your
Buccaneers.
Buccaneers?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Um, you go first. Who are we gonna cross off first?
I'm gonna cross off the Commanders, I think, just because I think that secondary is going to be their real focus. Like I think that Siobhan Ravel or Trey Amos out of Ole Miss, like I think those are the guys they're going to be looking at in that range, just because we saw them at the trade deadline recognize the needs in the secondary. They went out and got Marshawn Lattimore. Didn't work out. He was awful, but like they recognized the need and they still really haven't addressed that. So I think that's more just about like kind of reading the tea leaves on what they think they need. I think it's going to be a secondary play there.
I think that's fair. I'm gonna cross off the Buccaneers because I think it's just Jihad Campbell there.
Yeah, I'm completely fair.
So we got the Falcons, the Lions, the Packers, and the Bengals.
I'll cross off the Packers. Like I think it makes a lot of sense, but again, I'm not trying to predict what the Packers are going to do because that's a fool's errand.
Yeah, I think that is a bit of a fool's errand there. I'm gonna cross off the Lions next because I
Okay,
don't know if he's gonna be around that.
fair, completely fair. If he is, they better snatch him up.
Yeah,
But if he like, there is a really good chance that he's not there. So that gives us the Falcons and the Bengals. Do you want him on the Falcons, brother?
if you can make a better case for the Bengals, he can go there too. I'd be okay with him on the Falcons.
I think we go Falcons just because
Okay.
like I it's one of those things where I think the Falcons and the Bengals are kind of look fishing in a lot of the same buckets when it comes to this draft. So like I think that you could definitely talk yourself into like the Falcons have the first crack at him, essentially. And like in terms of players who are on the board, like I like Mike Green, I like Donovan Ezeriku, but like Shemar Stewart's ceiling is way higher than both of those guys. So like that's kind of where I'm looking with that.
I'll
I
say
think the
this
floor is lower too, to be
mhm.
clear, but
I'll say this: if Jalen Walker's there at 15, they're going to take him. Like the
yeah,
Falcons are going to take him, but he might be. You have him going 8 to the Panthers. So
yeah.
congratulations, Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty, you're a Raider.
Yo, Raider.
And then Shemar Stewart, rise up. Hopefully, I don't hate you.
Rise. Nah, you won't. You'll love him. You'll love him.
So it is March Madness, and instead of being that we do more than shoot hoops and turn left, we only shoot hoops and turn left.
That's
I
right.
got to do this for my boy Cody because he missed the bracket thing, and this is his brainchild. What college basketball coaches would make great college football coaches? This
First off, I'm very happy that I came up with this question because it's wild. The answer is not John Calipari. Good God, would
no.
he be bad at this? The reason I was thinking about this is Rick Pitino's been on my mind quite a bit recently, and like he would just be electric as a football. Can you imagine an SEC media day with Rick Pitino? My God, the clicks we would do on fansided.com. My God, the way the internet would be buzzing. But also like the way Rick Pitino coaches is kind of football-esque. Like he's a very demand like he's basically sports dad. Like and that's SEC football coaching, that's high-end college football coaching is be a sports dad. And like he knows how to recruit. He has the right amount of like sleaze and charisma that you're looking for. I just Rick Pitino could coach whatever he wanted to.
I was sitting there when we mentioned this yesterday during our weekly boss mentor meeting, whatever
Yes,
it
sir.
is. You mentor the S out of me. I almost swore there, but he kind of reminds me of Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday.
Yes. Yes.
Inches.
Inches.
He also gives off the vibe of like Mike Shanahan because obviously his son Richard Pitino is doing great things there at New Mexico. So
Yeah.
like that's kind of like Kyle Shanahan. I could see him being that kind of coach. I mentioned Tom Izzo because I think he actually likes football. He let like
Yeah.
Draymond Green do that. He'd kind of be like a Mark Richt type of coach.
I could definitely see that. A guy we've already talked about. I think Chris Beard would make a lot of sense as a football coach. Like dismissing the off court stuff, and like I'm not dismissing it, but like for this conversation, just putting it to the side for a second. But like in terms of his demeanor, I think he reminds me. He's like Drink without the Napoleon syndrome.
Yeah,
Like he's an actual like bigger dude, but like he just kind of has that kind of like motivator and also just like serial killer-esque charisma, I guess is the way I describe it.
I could also see Drink being a college coach. He's like Eddie Sutton, five guys, five guys.
100%.
I I love he's drinking out of a bag under a bleachers, but he doesn't run any plays. He just gets the best five guys out there.
That's right. Yeah, we're
Uh,
running motion 100% of the time.
and he and he had some Doug Gottlieb guy out there dribbling the basketball wearing a short side backwards, winning 2 games in Green Bay.
Yeah, not happening. Not happening.
I think Bruce Pearl would be a really good. Uh,
Oh God,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, I could see him being like a offensive Vinderkand, like kind of like an Andy Reid kind of guy.
Oh, 100%. And like he also has a little bit of the Patino like a-hole factor as well too. Like I think that would I really like Bruce Pearl. That's a really good one there. Uh I'm trying to think. There's someone obvious that I'm missing.
You could think about that. I got one. I'm gonna throw my guy Mike White in there. Obviously, his brother,
Mm.
his dad was the AD at Notre Dame. His brother's the AD at Tennessee. He kind of strikes me like he could be like a Sean McDermott type of guy.
Ooh, I could see that. Who I was thinking of, Buzz Williams at Texas A&M. Buzz
Uncle
Will
Buzz, Uncle
Uncle
Buzz.
Uncle Buzz, man. Uncle Buzz could definitely be a college, like he is. I feel like he would be a perfect like G5 head coach in college football. Like I think that would make perfect sense for him to be like the developer and motivator that he has been at every stop that he's been at.
Yeah, he's like Chuck Martin, man.
Yeah, 100%. Like, oh my God, Buzz Williams in the MAC. Give it to me right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I had another one that was really good. Again, I don't know all that many college. Well, Darian DeVries is a job hopper, so he could be Scott Satterfield.
There we go. Just an opportunist, baby. We love it.
God, I had another one.
I'll go ahead and say Hubert Davis not eligible for this list. No shot he would be good at college football coaching.
John Shire would not be good at it either.
No, absolutely not. Although I got to go off on a John Shire tangent real quick, and it's actually semi-positive, but Patrick Beverly was telling stories about John Shire in his high school days, and apparently John Shire was like Mr. Illinois in basketball and played in Chicago in the suburbs, but because he was such like a real hooper, he would like walk into the inner city and just play like inner city hoops games like all the time. And like everyone in Chicago knew who John Shire was. And I was like, I didn't realize he was a Chicago legend like that.
That makes sense. I mean, that's why he replaced Coach K, a Chicago legend. But
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was the same age as Patrick Beverly. But I get they like hoop out there. They don't care.
I mean, John Shire's super young. Like he actually told the story. They were playing together on the Heat. Shire got poked in the eye and went legally blind in one of his eyes and had to stop playing NBA basketball. So yeah.
It'd be like that sometimes. God, I had another one that was really good. College coach who could be. Rick Barnes could be Kirk Ferentz.
Yes, yes, he could. He might be Kirk Ferentz for all we know.
Bill Self would be Gus Malzahn. Let's go, boys.
Let's break it down, boy.
Gus Malzahn would be the best.
Oh yeah,
Or
that
we're gonna give
the
you 40
opposite
minutes
direction.
out.
Yeah, opposite direction for sure.
One more. I
You
know you
you
probably
know
got
Gus
one.
Malzahn's running a full court press for 40 minutes. Like you know he is.
He's doing some like loyal Marymount nonsense. The players are just dropping like flies. Rest in peace, Bo Campbell.
Yes, indeed.
I had another one. God, who is it? I don't think Dan Hurley could do it.
No, I feel like the players would absolutely revolt against the
Um,
you know who I actually think would probably be pretty good because I think he's a smart dude. Shaka Smart. I think
yeah,
Shaka Smart would be
that's
an
that's what that's
yeah.
exactly who I was thinking. He could be James Franklin.
Yeah, well, twinsies, but I think that just the way he coaches, like he's such a I'm trying to think of a comp for him. Who's like a college football coach that like you just don't see get like fired up. Like he just has like that like even keeled demeanor.
Mark Richt.
Yeah, we'll go with Mark Richt, another Mark Richt type.
Um, who's the Mario Cristobal of college basketball coaching?
Honestly, probably Bill Self, if we're being honest. Bill Self
Yeah,
has championships, but not enough for considering he's Bill Self.
I think that's fair. A guy that's been around a while, hasn't won a lot. We're kind of shocked he hasn't. That might be.
Ooh, actually, no, I've got a better one. Kelvin Sampson.
That's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah.
Kelvin
Kelvin
Sampson.
Sampson.
Kelvin Sampson just coming in doing. I would not be shocked if Houston won the whole thing.
Yeah, as my bracket predictions on fansided.com say, nor would I. Nor would
No,
I.
no. And then I guess other coaches. Give me one more, and I'll give you one more. We'll get out of this
Okay,
one.
let's go with I'm trying to think. I'm going through like conferences and going through the tournament. I think Mark Few could do it. I think Mark Few could be a good college football coach. Like again, another guy who I think would thrive at the G5 level just based on how he does it at Gonzaga, but like the ability to get the resources that the Gonzaga program has in Spokane, Washington, I think that might work pretty well in a lot of college football stuff.
He's Dave Clawson.
Yeah, oh, 100%.
And the last guy I'm going to put out there, trying to figure out exactly who the comp would be, but I think the mayor of Ames, Iowa, Fred Hoiberg at Nebraska would be really good.
Love it. Love it.
Like he'd be like he's some sort of cross between PJ Fleck and Cliff Kingsbury. I can't if you could find like a better version of this is kind of like the good looking offensive quarterback coach, but likable, not Lincoln Riley. It's like who's the guy who's either like a receiver or a quarterback who played like in the air raid that's like
He's
right
good looking
team.
in my heart. Kenny Dillingham, baby.
Yes. The mayor of Scottsdale.
That's right.
And I don't know if Kenny Dillingham knows how to dribble a basketball, or I don't think he has ever heard of Ramstein either. But I'm going to ask you a question here. Let's move on with some Du Hast or Du Hast here.
Yes, sir.
Also, I heard Ramstein was playing at Atkins the other day, and it was like doo 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 doo.
That's a vibe. That's a
It
vibe.
was
That's a vibe at the bar.
it was a good vibe, and the next day was not a good vibe.
I'm sure.
It's it's the ultimate wild card bar in Atlanta. It's been there for 103 years. But
That's right.
do Host or do Host? Is Ryan Day in Ohio State, or are Ryan Day and Ohio State going about removing last year's national championship reminders the right way? This seems to be like a player driven thing. They're like, this is that last year was last year, this is now. They're saying there was a post I wrote for fanside.com saying like this may have befell Michigan. I don't know if that's entirely true, but they don't care about last year. They care about now. So is this a good thing?
I'm going to do Haas 1S. And I think it absolutely is a good thing because one of the things we've talked about pretty routinely with Ohio State is the idea that there's a lot of new faces on this team. Like outside of Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, who that's going to be like play a prominent role in this team in 2025 really did a whole hell of a lot of anything to get that national championship in the books. Like there are guys that contributed, no doubt. I'm not diminishing that. But in terms of like key contributors, starters, star players, it's two guys that are returning. So if it, especially with this being something that the players push for, that's a good thing. To me, that shows a stronger culture than I thought was actually there. You know, it's not a born on third base type of culture. It's a we've got to go out there and earn this because y'all this group that we have in the building right now in Columbus, y'all haven't earned S. Y'all haven't earned a damn thing. And so go out there and earn your own national championship gear. Go out and earn all of that. And you know what? I bet if they were to win a national championship this year, which is not out of the realm of possibility, and we're not going to diminish that right now in March. Like it's dumb to say that in March, but like if they go out and win another one, I would bet that the same thing doesn't happen because you're probably going to have a quarterback who's returning. You're probably going to have receivers who are still returning. Like you're going to have a more core that's returning and being like, hey, this is what we're working for. As of right now, these guys don't have, like, they haven't really experienced that in the same way.
I'm gonna go Du Hast West. This is the right call, but I don't think it's gonna matter. I don't think they're gonna repeat as national champions. I think they're in a group of 8 teams that could do it.
Yeah.
I have them as a lock to make the playoff because they play in the Big Ten, but I'm sitting here and I'm thinking like I'm much more high on Penn State and Clemson doing it than them.
Yeah, and I'm with you currently, but like I do think that it is like if you're trying to find an extra gear, like you look at some of the stuff Kirby Smart does. Like I love Kirby, but like there was one guy who said that that team was going 7-5, and they used that as motivation to win a national championship. So, like anything you can do to motivate the team, college athletes, you do it,
You go in the locker room through firecrackers, they're coming for
man.
us
That's what
boys.
I'm saying, man. Just get you some screaming memes and some Roman candles in the locker room, baby.
Okay, so I think this is good. You know, you don't want to be basking like the year prior because winning these things is so hard. Everybody's going to be out to get you. Not to say that you won last year by like a fluke, but you got hot at the right time in the new
Yeah.
playoff format. There were areas that you took advantage of and got there, but you're also probably the most talented team in the country then, and that's totally fine. What I would say to how do I say this fairly? Ohio State just they've won 3 national titles in our lifetime, and they've all been one off, and they've
Yeah.
been once a generation. 2002, and AJ Hawk was a freshman, and his fingers still worked. They beat Miami. In 14, when Ezekiel Elliott and Joey Bosa legally couldn't drink, they won. And
Right.
then last year they won with a loaded team. Again, all three of those teams were not really like they were in the mix to do it, but it's like Lute Olson's one national championship team at Arizona. It was like this was not the year to do it.
Yeah, no, and I think you're absolutely right. And I mean, let's be clear, like it's hard to repeat as national champions in college football. Like Georgia, there's a reason people prop Georgia up for doing it because it's damn hard. It's really difficult to do that when there are, and like I think it's going to become even more difficult to do that moving forward too because of like we talked about it all last season. Parity has improved in college football, especially at the top. Like the top 10 to 20 teams are not as dissimilar as they used to be. Like it used to be like a top four and then 16 who are kind of fighting for second place in that group. And like now it seems like there's a lot of teams that can all make that jump with NIL, with the transfer portal and stuff like that. So I think that it's only going to become more difficult to repeat as national champions than it already has been. And like you said, like history tells us that Ohio State doesn't really repeat as national champions.
I guess my last little thought about this is I think you could leave the stuff up there if you had the same returning quarterback. Like if you had Will Howard back from the year, like Stetson Bennett the fourth, you could conceivably leave it up there and be fine. He's like, oh, I won that. I'm going to keep this up here. But like, you look like a horse's ass for putting this stuff up there and leaving it up there when it's Julian Sayin or Lincoln Kienholz or Tavian St. Clair.
Right. Absolutely, you do.
You got any other thoughts here? You want to move on to something that's a little more messed up?
Let's get more messed up, man. Let's do it.
Because we are living in a simulation here. So Syracuse Orange head coach Fran Brown clapback at Colorado head coach Deion Sanders about saying let's bring the Orangemen to Boulder and play a spring game right away. And I'd love to see it. I don't think that's practical at all, but it'd be great if it happened.
Would like let me ask you this. Like, would intra squad like spring games, would that be something you want to see? Like in terms of like you schedule like an exhibition because like we see it sometimes in college basketball. Like we'll see Kentucky go play on the road against some other team and like just like a scrimmage basically. But like I would specifically like I think Colorado Syracuse is a perfect example of it. A team that you're probably not going to have on the schedule. A team that you're
Exactly.
probably like you're not probably going to cross paths with. But like I do think there could be some interest there. Like I think it's a great way, especially with a conversation we had a couple weeks ago about like coaches canceling spring games. Hell, this is a way to drive even more interest in the spring game. Have another school come in and like you could do a home and home. Like it's in Boulder one year, it's in Syracuse the next year. Like that I think that there's something here that I don't hate. I don't hate it. I don't know what the logistics would be because obviously you don't want, you want to limit injuries, you want to limit altercations and stuff like that. Maybe maybe you still hold a spring game and you have a flag football type scrimmage or like a 7-on-7 type of thing to like get these guys like more reps and stuff like that. But I think there's something there.
I think doing a home and home with another team at you're competing at your level that you're not going to play is probably a great idea. I'll think about who I would want to see Georgia play, and you think about who you would like to see North Carolina play. But like Colorado and Syracuse, like they may meet in a bowl game, but that's probably it. We got one of
Yeah,
the ACC. They both won 9 games a year ago. They'd match up pretty favorably. I'd say like if Georgia wanted to play if Georgia wanted to play like Penn State, that'd be fine.
that'd be cool. For Carolina, I was thinking, my mind, probably because it's March, but my mind went to like, let's get like a college basketball blue blood matchup in college football. Let's do Carolina, Kentucky. Like that'd be kind of
Yeah.
sick. And like two teams kind of not like two programs kind of not dissimilar from each other in terms of their standing. Like I think that that can make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity like to get better. I mean, you think about how they do it with the NFL. You've got the 3 preseason games. Starters play if they're all in the second, and the third one is basically like whoever is in the same geographical region, not in your schedule. Like most years, the Falcons in their preseason with either the Dolphins or the Jaguars.
Right.
The Cowboys are in Oxnard, or maybe they play the Texans. I don't know how that works.
It's the Cowboys don't have any rhyme or reason to anything they do in any capacity, and the preseason is included in that.
I gotta finish with this because this is absolutely hilarious. Just no rhyme or reason with the Cowboys. Again, I think we're in favor of Fran Brown and Deion Sanders making this happen.
Yeah.
Logistically, we're like, I don't think it will. I do think that this is a good opportunity to showcase players at Syracuse, help increase Syracuse's brand. These are
Yeah.
two big state schools, the biggest one in each state, the only power four in each one. Have had some success in football historically, but not great. So I think they kind of match up favorably. Like you said, Kentucky and North Carolina and Georgia and Penn State would be favorable too.
100%. Yeah. And like I do think the other wrinkle that you just reminded me of that would be interesting to see, like, what if Georgia played a program like Indiana or something
Yeah,
like that?
that was
Something
yeah.
like kind of give them more exposure. Like that the exposure factor is not something I considered, but that's an interesting wrinkle that could be added to this. Like giving a program like an Indiana or like in Syracuse in this case. And like let's say, I mean, frankly, Carolina goes and plays a Penn State. Carolina goes and plays an Ohio State or something like that. Like, because Carolina doesn't have the brand that those guys do in college football.
Yeah, I was like, but beyond like Penn State, I was thinking like Georgia could play Indiana, Georgia could play Louisville, something like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, Georgia Louisville would be kind of sick.
That'd be pretty good. So on the concept of like the Cowboys have no rhyme or reason for anything, I saw this clip. This guy was fishing, he caught a bass, and he pulls out his phone and he makes the he makes the bass watch the 2001 Creed Thanksgiving halftime show on his
Okay,
phone.
at one point they did have rhyme or reason, and that was the pinnacle of Cowboys football was 2001, the Creed Thanksgiving halftime show.
You got Scott Stapp singing in a white Cowboys jersey. You've got Mark Tremonti just doing this. You got bald guys flying around on ribbons out there. You got this fish who's like suffocating in real time, thinking he's gonna die. So he made him watch it on his phone.
There's nothing is more indicative of Cowboys fandom than that clip. I've seen that as well. And yeah. Also, the bald guy in that Creed halftime show that's flying around everywhere, he looks a lot like the mummy from the mummy. Like that's all I could think of every time I see that clip is I'm like, man, your career really went downhill after the mummy.
And the truth is, I mean, Scott Stapp looked a lot like Brendan Fraser in Airheads.
It's true.
We got the Lone Rangers. And I remember that what Steve Buscemi, Brendan Fraser, and Adam Sandler were in this movie. I remember Adam Sandler's name was Pip. So let's remember some dudes.
Let's
Let's remember.
remember some.
All right. You go first. Who do you want to remember?
Kind of a big name, but someone who, God, I could have sworn he was the greatest college football player I ever saw. Denard Robinson, man, old
Yeah.
shoelace, like was an absolute monster. Had a decent couple years with the Jaguars when they converted to running back, but man, watching him at Michigan, he really can't throw the ball, but God, he was electric. He had the shoelace thing where he didn't tie a shoe, so he's losing a shoe at least twice a game. Like it was just like looking back on it, yeah, like knowing what I know now as like a more educated football guy, like he wasn't that good. Like he was just athletic and like, but as someone who was just watching for the love of the game at the time, he made me love the game. Like it was a thrill ride, not always in a good way, but a thrill ride nonetheless.
That's a great one. I'm gonna go with another thrill ride who played both ways. The Chuck Bednarik of the Olatangy. I'm gonna go with Ohio State cornerback wide receiver Chris Gamble.
Oh, hell
He
yeah.
was he was part of that 2002 team or whatever. He was playing for Jim Tressel and he was doing stuff. I think he played for the Panthers for a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, they couldn't figure out what position he was. I think he ended up playing more like cornerback or everything like that. But I'm like, oh, this guy's great. I remember my dad's like, he's got to pick a position, and Mike Buehler was right.
Papa Bueller knows ball.
Oh my God, who you got next?
I got D'Angelo Hall. Your former
Yeah,
Falcons great, but I remember him from Virginia Tech, and I don't remember if he did this as much at the NFL, but I remember like he was obviously a great cornerback, and like I believe he had 2 seasons with at least 3 interceptions at Virginia Tech. But I remember him as a punt returner, man. Like, and that
yeah.
was in that era, like post Vic, where like things were like Virginia Tech was still exciting. They're like, things still hit in Blacksburg in a very different way, a lot different than they are now, that's for sure. But like he just kind of like he almost obviously way different positions, way different players, but like he was almost like the carryover from Mike Vick in terms of like there's a dude in Blacksburg right now who's just doing things that we just don't see. And like D'Angelo Hall was a dude who, as an ACC guy, like I grew up and I was just like that was right. I believe he played like right as Virginia Tech was transitioning to the
Yeah,
ACC, if I remember correctly. And so like I remember watching him in the early stages of Virginia Tech in the ACC and being like, what the hell is this? And like, is Virginia Tech just gonna run shop in the ACC for the next like 40 years? Because that's what it looks like.
they had fun. D'Angelo Hall, yes. I think he's got to be on the Mount Rushmore of Virginia Tech with Frank Beamer, Bruce Smith, and Michael Vick, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, but oh god, D'Angelo Hall was a lot of fun, man.
A lot of fun here. Not a lot of fun here for me, but he had a really great year back in 2013. We're going to go with the come on, boys. Let's go, boys. Let's go with Auburn running back Tre Mason.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So my sister was a sophomore at Auburn at this time, and we went there and with my buddies Steve and Ian, and we were watching there. We were there with that's when I first saw Antonio, the Sigma Nu Poncho guy, and we were there for Prayer Jordan Hair Day, and that was awful for me. Not a lot of fun. I thought Aaron Murray had a game-winning touchdown and did not.
Yeah.
Tre Mason was like a Heisman candidate. Ran always hit with his head. Probably did some reversible brain damage to him. I think his dad was like Mace, like the rapper or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But it was like him. It was Greg Robinson, the left tackle that
Busted horribly. We can
busted
say
horribly.
that.
Nick Marshall at quarterback. I think Carlton Davis was the best player of that team.
Probably. You're not wrong. But God, I forgot. I had forgotten about Tre Mason. He was a dude though. That's a dude for sure.
That was 100% dude. I think the late Philip Lutzikirchen was probably off that team at that point, but
Yeah.
rest in peace up there. But that was no, that was Gus Malzahn's first year. That was they took us by surprise. Come on, boys, let's go. Tre Mason just running downhill.
So we thought Gus Malzahn had a bright future. Little did we know that he was just going to be the Gus bus forever and
Gonna be
always.
who you got? And you probably got one more guy if you got one more.
I do have one more, and after picking Shoelace for my first one, I decided to go the opposite direction and pick the most nondescript white quarterback that I could remember watching playing. And so I'm going with Wisconsin quarterback Scott Tolzien, who was the predecessor to Russell Wilson at Wisconsin. Um, I just remember watching Scott Tolzien play and thinking anyone could be a college quarterback. Like there was just nothing special about him. He was just so nondescript. He had some good years. Like in his final season at Wisconsin 2010 before Russell Wilson took over, completed 73% of his passes, like was efficient, threw for 2,500 yards in back-to-back seasons, like was not a bad quarterback, but like it's just one of those guys. Like there are always going to be guys in every season that you just watch, like the Brady Cooks of the world. Like they just don't like they're not going to have like a real NFL future. Scott Tolzien bounced around as a backup for a really long time, but never played like meaningfully in the NFL. And like I'm sure Brady Cook will do something similar. But like there's these guys that are always going to stick out in your brain because you remember watching them, but like you remember watching them because there was nothing to remember, which is a weird like paradoxical thing. And Scott Tolzien fits that bill.
Yeah, Russell Wilson got that guy paid a lot of money. Got him to
Yeah.
stick in the NFL with I think they played for the Colts and Packers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I remember him mostly with as like the Jordan or Aaron Rodgers' backup for a while there, and that was in like Aaron Rodgers' prime when Scott Tolzien did not see the field.
We had a guy like this in my chapter. His nickname was RJ. That was his initials,
Yeah,
and somebody was saying that like he was so memorable. He was so memorable because he was so unmemorable. He was just the most like basic frat dude of all time. Just
hey,
like he was like he liked what everybody else was doing more than Kevin Durant likes what everybody else is doing.
yeah. I
Just
mean, like Scott Tolzien is like the prototype for what I imagine when I think of a Wisconsin quarterback. Like that's what I think of.
100%. And I'm gonna finish with two quarterbacks that we both know. The penultimate guy, we got to talk about the head coach of the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors now, Timmy Chang. Timmy
Hell
Chang,
yes.
Hawaii After Dark. Timmy Chang probably made people more degenerates or like sickos than anybody else. Because
Yeah,
Hawaii, he was playing with June Jones doing the run and shoot there. They're playing 13 games a year because they're in Hawaii. They're playing at night. Hawaii was also really good. I think he predated the late Colt Brennan just by a little bit,
yeah.
but like
He might have been the
fantastic,
immediate predecessor. Honestly, I'm gonna look that up right now while you keep talking.
fantastic college player. I think he played a little bit with the 49ers, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but again, like a lot of people played quarterback for the 49ers. Timmy Chang just threw for a lot of yards and
He was the immediate predecessor to Colt Brennan. Like it was, Timmy Chang played from 2000 to 2004, and then Colt Brennan took over in '05.
okay, there we go. Yeah, I remember Timmy Chang a lot, and then like the other quarterback who threw it a lot, but not the guy I was gonna mention, like Case Keenum there at Houston. Another guy who was just throwing a gimmicky offense, just throwing for a bunch of yards, playing forever. I got more eligibility. Like imagine like how many years Timmy Chang would have played if he would have played now.
Oh my God, dude, he'd have put Cam Rising to shame.
And I almost forgot this, but we have to remember this guy. This is the ultimate guys to remember. Tyler Bray, Tennessee quarterback.
Yeah, oh yeah, we got to remember Tyler Bray. And I know you. We're taking a little shot at Tennessee with Tyler Bray here.
Tyler Bray was from like California, well thought of recruit, and he was basically like nobody loved Tyler Bray more than Tyler Bray.
Oh, dude, Tyler Bray had a Tyler Bray poster on as well. There's no doubt about it. No one else in Knoxville, I can assure you of that.
He might have played for three different coaches at Tennessee. He may have played for Fulmer, Kiffin, or he may have just played for Derek Dooley, but he's coming in there thinking he's hot ass,
Oh yeah.
not making bowl games.
That was such a weird era for Tennessee football because I'm looking now at like who were on those Tennessee teams, and it was like that was the Cordero Patterson era. That
Yeah.
was the Justin Hunter era. Like it's just a weird time for Tennessee football.
And every time I think about this, when I think of Tyler Bray playing quarterback for Tennessee, I think of that one year that Joey Harrington was the Falcons quarterback, just flapping his arms like this whenever they did something good. I'm like, that I blocked out pretty much everything else from that season with the exception of Joey Harrington doing this and Byron Leftwich, who's now apparently on the Colorado staff, throwing the
Oh,
ball like deep into the stands at the Benz, fourth and goal.
dude, talk about a guy to remember. Byron Leftwich at Marshall was a monster.
Absolutely. His best game was the game that he lost. Like he was playing beat up against Akron or something.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Tyler Bray left school a year after, as soon as he could. Didn't get drafted. Kind of backed up the Chiefs for a little bit. Has like the white trashiest tattoo of all time. It's like says Bray with like colored stars around it.
He's like he's like a guy who like had a monster once and made it his entire personality, but also was still just a rich kid.
Tyler Bray walks so Carson Beck could run.
That's right.
This was episode 160 of False Start. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter at the X at Buhler118. You can follow the Laughing Man with the Internet, Cody Williams at This20. You can follow the show at CFB False Start. Like, rate, listen, subscribe, review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. Your hands are raised. You love to talk, so give us a 5-star review. You've you've never laughed harder on this show.
Oh, that broke me. That really got me. Oh, I'm good. I swear.
We're crying Cavender. This is false start.